Welcome back to another episode of Hard Hits, where we're going to be going through week 4. It is Taco Tuesday, so why not get into the spirit, right? Taco Tuesday, Taco Tuesday. I'm Connor Joe, and a couple of things that we learned about week 4. Some of the shitty teams are still shitty teams. We have a couple of pretenders trying to jump into the contenders, and the rest of the league is just a jambalaya of fuck. What's going on? So, with that said, we do have 2 words that we need to just share right off the bat: stat corrections. We are patiently waiting for a stat to be corrected because of the Monday night fuckery that got M.I. Thielens looking at a 4-0 start. We're going to just jump right into it. So the first matchup we take a look at, M.I. Thielens was going up against the Elite, a matchup where the Elite really needed to come in strong, grab that victory. And for the most part, this matchup looked like he was going to get the W. It turns out that for M.I. Thielens, the Steelers just really ran away with this game, which we kind of figured was going to happen. But we didn't figure that the fantasy impact of this was going to get him the W. He only had 4 players in double digits in the first place, compared to the Elite 6 players in double digits. And he ended up grabbing a victory by .12. Well, what does .12 mean? If there is going to be any stat correction that's going to be put into place in favor of the Elite, any of them, he's going to grab the victory. We're just patiently hoping, patiently waiting. Please, fantasy gods, let's throw one down here. We're looking at a team where M.I. Thielens every fucking week picks up somebody from the waiver trash, and the person puts up points. The guy grabs the victory for him. We looked at Raheem Mostert the other week. This week, we're taking a look at fucking Gauman. The guy was garbage in years past. The guy finally gets the start again. I don't know why this guy continues to get the start when somebody gets knocked out, but he does. And what does he do? He puts up a 24 burger. Okay, fine. But then we take a look at the rest of M.I. Thielens' team. Other than Gauman, he only had 1 fucking player in double digits on the offensive side. The offensive side. The fuck? And it happened to be James Conner who threw a 22 burger, which grabbed that victory. Pittsburgh Steelers putting up 21 as well. Combined 43.5 points that came down on Monday Night Football for M.I. Thielens to grab the victory. He had 4 players in double digits. 1 was a defense and 1 was an IDP. Blake Martinez has been stellar for him. Don't get me wrong, it's probably the only consistent person on Ricky's team. And Ricky's sitting at 4-0. You gotta be fucking kidding me. It's not lineup management. This guy's fucking lucky. Gotta be fucking kidding me. We take a look at fucking Dak Prescott with his 6 points. Told you, Dak ain't gonna keep doing this. We look at Sammy Watkins with his 4.8. It's always one person every week that just steals the show. James Conner hasn't been doing this all season long. This was his best game of the year. The Elite, on the other hand, it's a tough loss. He had 6 players in double digits. Jacoby had a solid game with 24.5. Michael Thomas had a decent game with 14. Prater with 14 points. Carson had a better game with 16.5 after the shitty performance the week prior. Josh Jacobs had a better performance, 11.8, and T. Williams, 11.1. It was a great performance, but also we take a look at Monday Night Football. You have a team that's killing it against the Bengals, and your star wide receiver only had 3 points. Juju Smith-Schuster, 3 points. It's definitely frustrating if I was the Elite. Definitely frustrating. It didn't help that Roquan Smith, going through some kind of personal problems, gets a last-minute scratch. If he played, that's your victory right there. We look at Roquan, we look at Juju. Those two players fucked the elite. That's a tough loss. That's a tough loss. We are crossing our fingers as a league, hoping for a stat correction. On to the next matchup was another barn burner. You look at limo riding, jet flying, son of a gun was going up against Team Boo Boo, who is Boo Boo. It was such a bad performance for Michael that all weekend long he actually thought his team lost. He was rumored to be speaking to another league member's wife, and he made a comment about how, Juan ended up winning, and it was frustrating him. News alert, your team won. The fuck? You put up 102 points, and you ended up grabbing a W. I wouldn't grab that W. I wouldn't be happy with that if that was my team. If I had a team in this league, I would not be happy with that. But 102 points and you grabbed a victory. Mike only had 3 players in double digits. Cooper Kupp led the way with 22.4. Patrick Mahomes didn't have a very satisfying performance, only 18 points. And Frank Gore at 10.9. Nothing to be shouting to the world about. It was definitely a disappointing performance for Mike. It didn't help that his kicker, Bailey, had 0 points. Delaney Walker had a shitty performance with 0.9. And then he only had 7 points from Julio Jones, from Larry Fitzgerald, Peyton Barber. And he didn't leave anything on the bench. But 102 points and you grabbed a victory. It didn't help. It really helped that you're facing Juan, because Juan's lineup management's pretty garbage as it is. He's heard Melvin Gordon's going to be playing. So what does he do? He starts Melvin Gordon. But the problem is he has nothing going on his bench at all. He literally left 1 point on his bench. That's everybody on his bench combined for 1 point. It also didn't help that Jalen Ramsey, who was announced not going to play, you started Ramsey also. And if you would have started Ramsey or just picked up somebody, you might have grabbed the W. Juan ended up putting 99 points on the board. He lost by 3.4. But let's not forget that Juan hasn't scored 100 points in 3 straight weeks. You lost by 3. If you managed your team a little bit better, you might have grabbed a W, pulled up a huge upset. Juan had 4 players in double digits. Todd Gurley led the way with 22.5. Jimmy Graham 15.1. Alshon Jeffrey 11.3. We looked at Thursday night, and I personally thought that Juan was going to pull off this victory with Alshon putting up points. Jimmy Graham, who had back-to-back 0-point weeks, and he put up a 15-burger. I was like, man, Juan might grab this victory. And Cole Beasley had 11 points, which was his 4 players in double digits. But it's just, you had 2 players that didn't put up any points. One of them didn't even play. Tom Brady had 3.7, and Josh Gordon only had 6, and your bench had 1 point. There's no depth on your team. You could have pulled off a great upset, but it's just not going to happen. It's your team's very frustrating just to look at. But for Mike, for him to think that he grabbed a W, and when news was reported to him that he actually won, he was very excited. Very excited. I would be ashamed if this shithole team almost lost to Juan. I don't know what to tell you guys. I really don't. We have teams like Ricky winning, teams putting up 102 points winning. We're going to take a look at our matchup of the week, which was Bukaki going up against Team Pops. It was a matchup I thought was going to be a lot closer, a lot more high scoring than it was. Pops didn't show up. Bukaki ended up beating Pops 139.28 to 118.08, and beating him convincingly by 21 points. Wasn't really close to begin with. We look at the quarterback breakdown. Lamar Jackson against Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan had a horrible game with only 10.6 points. They lost to the fucking Titans. At home, I believe. I believe it was at home. Lamar Jackson didn't have the greatest performance, but still put up 26.2 points, so the advantage obviously went to him. The wide receiver games, Bukaki had Galladay, who had a solid 22.2 points. Lockett didn't, not so much, with a 7.1. And then D. Robinson with a 5.5. Nothing to be shouting shouting on the mountaintops about. But when we look at who he was going up against, Calvin Ridley had a 4.7. Hardman had a negative 0.1. Hopkins 4.6. He obliterated the wide receivers. Bukaki jizzed on Pop's receivers, and it should be a crime. The running back game, I think it's fairly even, but the advantage did go to Pops. I wouldn't be satisfied with the 14.8 that Jones put down, especially since Jamal Williams got knocked out of the game early, and it was the Aaron Jones show, and with only 14.8 points, like, you would have thought that maybe he would have scored a lot more points. Derrick Henry had an average 11.3, compared to Zeke's 14.5, and then Marlon Mack was nowhere to be found with a 3.9, because they were playing catch-up for most of the game. We look at the tight ends, it was pretty much a wash. Kelsey with 12, Andrew threw 11.1. We look at the flex, that's where the game was made. The game was made in the flex. John Ross train is over with, Pops. Like, you gotta, that ship has sailed. Just like his career. Like, it's just, John Ross sucks. He's had a couple of flash in the pans early on this season, but he sucks. Leonard Fournette, I don't know how I feel about Leonard Fournette. I think that guy's straight trash. If I owned a fantasy team, I would never draft Leonard Fournette. But the breakdown was the last minute start with Leonard Fournette. Rumor was around the league that it was either Leonard Fournette or LeSean McCoy. And the difference was astronomical. McCoy put up 15.9 sitting on Bukaki's bench. Leonard Fournette led the game in scoring with 30.5. That was a genius start. If you picked between the two, it wouldn't have changed the outcome of the game. But that's definitely very relieving to have the 30.5 Fournette start. So you made some solid moves there, Joel. We look at the kickers, pretty much a wash. Zerline with 13, Lutz with 11. And then we take a look at the defense, which obviously there's no question. Every time it's going to fall over to Pop's hands. Chicago put up a whopping 18 points. Vander Esch had 10 points. Every time, Pops is going to kill the game in kicker and special teams. Bukaki, it's noted that Bukaki's Baltimore, a negative 3 points. There wasn't anything really much to be left to be on the bench when it came to Pop's team. He could have made a couple of changes here and there. It wouldn't have changed the outcome. Diggs had 12 points. Ito Smith had 10 points, but nobody in their right mind would have started Ito Smith. The bench on Bukaki's team, on the other hand, like, he could have done so much more damage to Pops. Goff at 27.6. Devontae Parker, for Christ's sake. News alert. Whew, hold on. News alert. There was a Miami Dolphin that had double digits. That should be, like, call the press. With 15 points. Corey Davis was to be found again with 17. And then we mentioned the McCoy with 15 plus points. It's a very satisfying win if I was Bukaki. Like, he just released his jizz, and it's very satisfying if I was him. For Pop, on the other hand, it's 2 straight losses, 2 tough opponents, might I add, going up against No Fat Chicks and going up against Bukaki this week. Frustrating if I was Pops. He put up the points last week. This week, not so much. Obviously, Deshaun Watson's holding him back with Hopkins. Hopkins is just not putting up the points. Deshaun Watson is trash. I'm telling you on the record, Watson sucks. But his receiving core is just trash. Like, Ridley, he's starting Hardman, and Hopkins is just not having, is just being held back. And John Ross is on your flex. So, what I take away from this matchup is Pops might be in a little bit of trouble. And that A+ draft ranking that he was getting might be a little bit of cause of concern. And then like I said, when we look at Bukaki, like, I think he's making a serious run. And the word around the rumor mill is he's trying to get better. He's actively trying to make deals with the rest of the league, trying to beef up this team. That's from what I am hearing. So we're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna take a look at the rest of the matchups. I'll be right back. Taco Tuesday.